Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Tuesday's show. On today's show, I want to discuss what went so wrong with the dceu. The problem is, when Warner Brothers were developing Man of Steel, it was for commercial reasons. And they were hoping the Superman movie they titled Man of Steel would end up spinning off into a commercial franchise. So what you do not do is bring in Zack Snyder to direct movies and, guide movies and guide a franchise in commercially. It's not something you do. It's a dumb move. It's a dick move. It won't work. And it didn't work. Now, disclaimer, as the regulars know, I love Zack Snyder. If you're new, you should have subscribed already, by the way, and smash that notification bell because you get honest, genuine chitter-chatter here. But as much as I love Zack Snyder, right? And I do. And I love the Snyderverse. Commercially, it didn't work. It was never going to work. Yes, the Snyder Cut has got some very good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, really good scores. But ultimately, people are judging it compared to Justice League. The reason we had Justice League is because we had Snyder in the first place, and they didn't know what to do to get out of that situation. In reality, if they were intelligent people, they would have just waited it out, let him finish his whole thing. It would have been solid box office, not great. Then they could have moved on. But they didn't do that because they're a commercial company who wants to make commercial money. And Man of Steel, BVS, and the Snyder Cut are not commercial movies one little bit. So the people running the studio at the time, whoever they were, made this dick move of bringing in Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is an auteur. So Christopher Nolan says, well, I can't really direct a Superman movie. I didn't even go to film school. I can do Batman movies. I can do, Inception, a great movie. I can do this, but I can't do a Superman movie. I can't do a heavy effects movie. I'm just not good enough. He was very honest there. So he co-wrote the story with David Goyer, and he brought in Snyder. He likes Snyder because, like him, he works with his wife. They're very similar men. But Snyder isn't like Nolan one little bit in terms of the way he conducts himself. Snyder's very, very aggressive about the way he wants to do things. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Totally the wrong guy to come in to, mold a commercial live-action comic book franchise. So this is where the dceu went wrong from the very, very beginning. If you agree, comment down below. But especially if you disagree, please do this constructively. Disagree in the comments and let me know what you think. This is a democracy, and we all get to have our say on this channel. We don't argue. We don't get toxic against each other just because we don't have the same views. We talk like intelligent human beings. That's how I see myself, and that's how I see you lot as well. So that's what went wrong with the dceu. It went wrong from the very beginning. But could you have Snyder doing this, but it being successful and having a commercial audience actually enjoy this? Yes. But the way they lined up their movies was wrong. By throwing in a dark Superman movie, you don't give the audience a chance. A year before, they saw Avengers Assemble, the first Avengers movie. Bright colour palettes, funny, lots of drama, lots of tragedy, great special effects. We were introduced to the, Loki. We were introduced to Loki, a great villain, one of the few great villains in the MCU. People were saying, get me another one of those. So when Man of Steel was in development, they thought, we're not going to get a Justice League yet, but we could get a Superman film made within the first style. The premise was there. The box office for Avengers Assemble told Warner Brothers what the commercial audience wanted. And it wasn't like Warner Bros. Were opposed to this, but they just said to Nolan, do what you want. You made the Dark Knight trilogy, right? You know what you're doing. You're going to make it a success. $1 billion per movie. We don't need to worry. And I think we all thought that when Nolan was brought in. But we didn't think about this cleverly enough. Nolan is an auteur. He has an auteur's mentality. He doesn't care about the commercial element. For fuck's sake, Batman Begins didn't make a lot of money, and I think it's the best from the Dark Knight trilogy. He didn't even want a Batmobile. Warner Brothers had to force him to design his own Batmobile because he didn't want one in the movie. So he has no commercial mentality, because Warner Brothers surely must have made it clear to him that they wanted a commercial Superman movie. They wanted a commercial franchise. And the movie he and Goya did had no commercial element to it. Apart from really how great the VFX is and how exciting Krypton looks and the action in the film. There's a lot of action. Some people felt too much action. Years before in Superman Returns, people felt there wasn't enough action. So you can't win with people. But there you are. So how could have Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder won with the Snyderverse, and then it could have still been going and competing with the MCU today and attracting a commercial audience? Superman, as much as I love him and as much as I want him to be front and centre, can't be the first movie. Man of Steel can't be the first movie for the reasons I've explained. Throwing in a dark Superman film as the very first one, where we just had Avengers Assemble, is simply not going to work. You need a darker character to show the audience that this is going to be a dark franchise, because ultimately Batman is Snyder's favourite go-to character anyway. He likes him more than Superman. He kills Superman off in the second movie, then as Batman putting the Justice League together to make him more important than Superman. I'm just saying it how I see it. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen, and however you identify as. It's as simple as that. This is not a Snyder hate witch hunt. This is me speaking how I find it. So I believe Ben Affleck's The Batman movie should have been the first movie in the DC Extended Universe. Controversial, right? Not really. Now, I understand this movie was supposed to be sandwiched in between Justice League 2 and 3, or something like this, or Justice League 1 and 2. But you could redefine what it is. At that point, back in 2011, 2012, when they would have had to make the movie, when they made Man of Steel, Ben Affleck was a critically acclaimed director and actor. He'd already, I think, won an award for one of his movies, and I forgot what it was called. So him writing, directing, and starring in the first movie in the DC Extended Universe would have been ambitious. It really would have excited people a lot. So when you see that movie, you see Batman versus Deathstroke, you see Deathstroke murder Alfred, you know, entrap Bruce Wayne in Arkham Asylum, where he has some terrible experiences. He takes Bruce Wayne and Batman and puts him in the ditch, destroys him, breaks him. This works within a first movie of a franchise because at the end of this film, you could actually have the post-credit scene, use the Bruce Wayne perspective of the Battle of Metropolis as a post-credit scene. Even though we haven't seen Man of Steel yet, right? You could do that. It's foreshadowing. He sees it, right? Right after he's been through all this shit. So that's the first movie. And BVS can come down the line. It can be the 5th or 6th movie prior to Justice League. That makes a lot more sense. To me, it doesn't make any sense to kill Superman and bring him back in a Justice League movie. Superman was literally, what, in 10 minutes of a 4-hour, Zack Snyder's Justice League movie? This is why fans are not happy. We barely had any Superman. And if you look at Superman throughout his live-action history, we had George Reeves' show. We had 4 Superman movies, 2 excellent, the 3rd okay, and the 4th terrible. Right? Then we had Superman Returns. Enough said there, although I think it's okay. Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League, which is so disrespectful towards the Man of Steel. Then in the Snyder Cut, Snyder had no intention of having Superman in the film a lot because he killed him off in the first film. So that's problematic. A 4-hour Justice League movie with very little Superman. So Superman hasn't been treated very well throughout his live-action history. He was great in Smallville. He was great in a lot of versions, but it really isn't good enough. And Superman fans are angry. So, yeah, that's what you do. You have this the Batman movie, and what this does is it shows the audience, wow, this is Batman. We'll accept him. We'll accept this version of Batman. We understand now this is going to be a dark franchise, but this was a fucking epic movie, and it takes Batman right to the ditch. It breaks Batman in his very first movie. BVS should never have been the second movie. Batman should have had a standalone movie. Also, what this very first DCEU film being the Ben Affleck's Batman, it really does show a foundation for why, when we get to BVS, that Batman is going to hate Superman, that he's a little bit of a killer. Because of what Deathstroke has put him through in this first Ben Affleck written and directed and starred in Batman movie, as the first movie in the DCEU, there's justification. There's logic to why he's going to be a killer in BVS 5 or 6 movies down the road, right? But by introducing the character in BVS and just saying, oh, he's lost Robin, we haven't seen him lose Robin, but he's lost Robin, he's angry and he's a killer. People are not going to get that. But because they see him in this very first DCEU Batman movie, in this dark, brutal movie, being fucking broken physically and emotionally, they're going to understand his motivations in BVS a lot more. Now, certain elements of BVS you may have to change if you wanted it to work for a commercial audience, which it didn't. It didn't, right? I love BVS. I think it's a work of fucking art. But it doesn't work for a commercial audience. You can have Batman being dark because of what we've seen in this first Batman movie, right? Which I'm suggesting. But you can't have Superman brooding for an entire movie if you want this movie to appeal to a commercial audience. Now, ultimately, this film made nearly 900 million. Mainly because of its huge opening, but it had a big drop-off. But even when you think about the drop-off, considering that drop-off, you know, 850, 870, 880, whatever it made globally, was amazing at the end of the day, considering how much it dropped off. But BVS came too soon, and yes, they did kill Superman too soon. So you do that as the first movie, then you do Man of Steel for the second movie, which is basically set at the same time as Ben Affleck's The Batman movie, which is our first DCEU movie. So by the Man of Steel movie, the audience understands this is a darker universe. So this Superman can be slightly darker. He can growl, he can grunt, he can scream, you think you can threaten my mother? He can be like that. I still think the breaking of Zod's neck isn't for a commercial audience. Again, big fucking mistake. But at least that brutality is expected now because we had that first Superman movie. Then you do a Wonder Woman movie, a Cyborg movie, a Green Lantern movie. You set up this huge Green Lantern universe. And you just build. You world build. Slowly. There's no rush. And then eventually you can do BVS. And people will now understand the Snyder way. Then you go to Justice League. And then I think if you do it this way, the Snyder way would have been accepted, or more of a chance to be accepted, right? But as I said on the top of the show, Snyder isn't a commercial director. He's not. And he's really passionate about his way of doing things. It's his way or no way. And that's the problem. And they tried to send him on his merry way. But this guy had the bit on him through his teeth. He still has. He's still fighting to restore the Snyderverse. It's going to be very hard to stop him and his fans from fighting for that. And this complicates everything. Everything. In trying to, you know, reboot or relaunch the DCEU in another direction. They attempted to do that with the Flash movie and Batgirl, the multiverse strategy. That's in the bin now. I'm sure of it. I'm sure those two films are in the bin. And I'm very, very confident about kind of what they're doing with James Gunn and Black Adam. Last night I stayed up till 4 in the morning rewatching Peacemaker. And if you allow me, I'm going to talk about Peacemaker a little bit because I never gave it an official review. The Suicide Squad really is the new direction of the DCEU now, if you think about it. If I'm right, and the multiverse strategy, the Flash movie and Batgirl are dead, right? Which it looks like they are. James Gunn's vision can be the new direction for the DCEU. So I rewatched Peacemaker, and first of all, I just thought, the first time I saw it, but I mean, just rewatching it, I had the same feelings again. I mean, this is brilliant. Not only is it funny, not only is it bloody and violent and brutal, it's the character-driven storytelling. Again, like Guardians, He picked a bunch of characters the mainstream commercial audience hadn't heard of, and he's made them successful. Peacemaker is a great fucking character. When you first meet Peacemaker, you think, I don't think much of him. He kind of grows on you, but obviously when he kills Rick Flag, we all loved Rick. But what's interesting with Gunn, he doesn't rush in that film to make him all that likeable. It's only when he gets to Peacemaker that he fleshes him out more. His backstory about his brother is so compelling. I was in fucking tears. It's that moment when you relate to the character a lot more. So Gunn really took his time, and he was allowed to take his time, because as I said the other day, if you get James Gunn's going to do whatever the fuck he wants, or he's not going to do it. I think that's probably why he didn't get much work after Scooby-Doo. And I think it was only Kevin Feige who smartly said, you can do what you want. Feige doesn't allow people to do what they want. But he understood with Gunn, it would work to his advantage. And it has. And old Disney, have you made a big mistake with the sacking of him because of those tweets all those years ago? After Guardians and the animated Guardians stuff, whatever they're doing, he's done. James Gunn is going to be working with DC. And we are all the more fortunate for this. We already know, as discussed yesterday, that Black Adam is going to have Amanda Waller in that series. And that's so exciting, because we know there's a scene between Amanda Waller and Hawkman. Awesome. We know Black Adam is going to get abducted at the end of that movie. We also now know, basically, it's a little rumour, but I think it's true, that James Gunn is developing a Checkmate series. Now, if you haven't read Checkmate in DC Comics, you can check it out in Smallville Season 9. This is something else that Smallville did so well. You have the checkered tiles. It's an Amanda Waller kind of branch of the government, and it's very, very different to the Suicide Squad. So, sorry if this is a spoiler alert for Peacemaker, but basically, Amanda Waller and Task Force X is exposed by her own daughter. By the way, what a great character that was. All these characters of James Gunn's good wife, who played Amelia Hardcore. What a character. Everything was just great in this show. I mean, fucking hell, Vigilante. I mean, that is not the Vigilante in the comic books. I fucking prefer this Vigilante. He's fucking off his nut, but what a great character. The whole thing is brilliant. So, this excites me that James Gunn potentially is developing this Suicide Squad universe, and he's bringing in the Shazam universe while he's doing it. I don't know how much power James Gunn is going to have in the new era of the DCEU. But he's already proved himself, everyone, with Peacemaker, with the Suicide Squad, and everything else he's planning. Peacemaker proves he's not just some idiotic writer-director who's just there for easy gags. I mean, sometimes he does it. But he's also, in Peacemaker, did a lot of serious things and fleshed out that character so well. And, I think, and this is, I'm still reading on my Twitter timeline. Oh, MCU's so good and the DCEU shit and Superman wasn't at Comic-Con. We now know that it was literally physically impossible, either virtually or physically, for Cavill to be at San Diego Comic-Con, because while that was going on, basically while we were watching that awesome trailer for Black Adam and that awesome epic trailer for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Henry was busy at work on The Witcher, on location. So it was just not possible. I know what's going on behind the scenes at the DCEU is a shit show. I should know. I've been bringing this to you ever since I found out that the Flash movie and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was delayed. And most of you are still in denial about what's going on with the Flash movie. It's not just the Ezra Miller situation that got that movie postponed. And we all know what's going on with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and that's an easier situation to sort out. Remove Amber Heard and you're golden. Looks like she's got a bit of dirt on them because they're finding it hard to get rid of her. They did originally, as we know now, Walter Hamada wanted to get rid of her, and she did something. She pulled a stroke to stop that from happening. So hopefully that can be sorted out, because I really want everyone to see Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I think The Flash, and Batgirl and the revival of Michael Keaton's Batman are dead in the fucking water. I think they're dead. I think you're never going to see them. That's regrettable, but I can live with it because I believe that the DCEU can destroy the MCU still. I still believe that. After all these years and all these false dawns, I absolutely have faith. Because with James Gunn around, I think we're in a good position. And if what he's doing in the future with Black Adam and The Rock, if it's anything of the quality of Peacemaker, I think we're in for a very exciting future for DC live action. But I'll just reiterate what I said at the beginning of the show. Zack Snyder is brilliant. He makes brilliant, beautiful movies. But if you're making a commercial superhero DC movie and a franchise, Zack Snyder is totally the wrong person for the job. He was the wrong person for the job, and that's why we are where we are now. It's a domino effect, everyone. Man of Steel, he directed. People liked it more than they hated it, but there was a lot of haters as well. And then you go to BVS, BVS destroyed the whole thing. BVS really pissed off the hardcore comic book fans and the commercial audience. They're the audience that will bring you money. And the critics. You had a problem with that film. The critics had a problem with that Suicide Squad movie. They did. But you see, it's a domino effect because from BVS, then the studio realised, and this is ironic because the studio gave BVS, when they first saw it, a standing ovation. The irony is not lost on me. But from the moment they saw the commercial audiences and media's reaction, they were trying to think of a way to get rid of him because he was already hard at work with Justice League as BVS released and after he finished doing the marketing and all of that. So the way they scheduled everything got them in trouble, but it was a domino effect. So they got rid of him and they thought, right, we can just put a few bright colours and some smiles. Joss Whedon did the first Avengers, great movie. What can possibly go wrong? Because they didn't just say to Joss, do your own thing, start again. And they said, right, you've got a few months to redo what he did. So then the dominoes fall on the floor. Justice League is a disaster because there's no way it could be anything else. So then you have Aquaman that makes all that money because you've got a director, he has a vision, right? And it's a brilliant movie. And Shazam's a brilliant movie as well. And the kids and the families love it. Joker's a brilliant movie. Nothing to do with the DCEU. The Batman's a brilliant movie. You know, Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman 84 are absolute disasters. And you won't be hearing anything more from them. And we'll see what James Gunn decides on the fate. Because I think James Gunn's in charge. And I think like the Black Canary series they greenlit, I think he will try and redefine that show and maybe try and save it. Very interesting as well that James Gunn's Peacemaker show did give a brilliant shout out to Green Arrow. So there's a Green Arrow in the DCEU, so he's got to turn up somewhere. And, you know, so I do believe the future's bright. But ultimately, as I say, they were always trying to fix what the Snyderverse did commercially, the damage it made. The Snyderverse damaged the DCEU commercially. So every person who took over WB was trying to fix that mess. So first Justice League, that didn't work. They had a couple of good movies, right? And then, you know, AT&T came in and they were in shit. They had nothing to launch HBO Max. All right, let's do this. Snyder Cut. So everyone's calling for the Snyder Cut. And there's a multiverse strategy, so we start to mistakenly think everyone can live together. It's like living in shared accommodation. In harmony, right? Doesn't really work, but you try. You live with your family members you can't stand. In harmony, it never really works. So then they try and fix the Snyder problem again by, you know, finding a way to get rid of his universe. So they think, right, the multiverse strategy. We can use the Flash's powers to take the Snyderverse away from Earth 1. Do you get it? And they're trapped in another universe, and then maybe we can give him something. Maybe we can, you know, do this kind of, you know, crisis on Infinite Earths or Final Crisis, and we bring everyone together and it's an event, and then we close off the Snyderverse. So there's that. But confusingly, they also use this Flash movie to delete Henry Cavill's Superman from canon. But they don't even have the logical idea of replacing Cavill's Superman with another actor. By doing a multiverse strategy, you can pluck another Superman out. or even an existing Superman like Tyler Heckling or Brandon Rath. They don't do that. They replace Superman with Supergirl, which is an odd decision, and decide to do a black Clark Kent. Another odd decision. New owners come in, Zaslav comes in saying, that's shit. That movie has to be shelved. We've got problems with this actor, but this movie is a fucking problem. Your strategy, Walter, is problematic. But they've now got this plan B with James Gunn and The Rock, which I think you're all going to fucking love, by the way. And you're going to love the Justice Society of America. You know, look out for Noah Centineo, you know. His role and his character from the JSA, absolutely fantastic. And you're really going to, you're going to be fond of all of that. So I think by the time Black Adam finishes, I think you're all going to be very, very excited. There'll always be people calling for the Snyderverse. Who knows what's going to happen there? But that's what went wrong with the DCEU, everyone. Because when you want commercial success, you've got to bring in people with a commercial mentality. Zack Snyder has said it before. He doesn't care about the commercial mainstream audience. But someone like James Gunn, who is an auteur, who can do his own thing, but he does understand how to do his own thing and please the commercial audience at the same time. And that's why James Gunn is the future of DC live action. This has been Movies TV Man. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again for tomorrow's show. I know parting is sweet sorrows, but until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.